Thank you very much for coming. My name is Janet Newsham. I'm the coordinator at Greater Manchester Hazard Centre, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you all for attending today. We've had numerous tributes over the years to commemorate all those people who have been killed in work-related incidents, but none more beautiful as this, or placed in such an appropriate and wonderful setting as the People's History Museum. I have such a lot of people to thank for this. Firstly, I'd like to thank the International Workers' Memorial Day Committee, who meet every year to decide how we organise and put some humanity into the destruction caused by workplace deaths. It was through that committee that we first decided to create this window, and there's a lovely teardrop statue in Scotland which inspired the original request. For a couple of years we've been using the teardrop displays which are on the bottom of this the stand to tell us some of the stories behind the statistics. And an inspired suggestion by Michael McNulty, one of the members of the committee, Unison Rep at Stockport Council, who incidentally created the film that's being shown over there on the making of the window. She volunteered her husband, who's a talented stained glass window maker, to create it for us. And Michael took our thoughts and designs and produced this wonderful and beautiful tribute, donating his time and artistic design, and we're all really appreciative of that. So thank you, Michael. He's not here, I don't think, this afternoon, but we'd like to thank him. Joan is one of the main organisers for the UK Stress Network. It's at their annual event this weekend and is unable to be here. But I'd also record our thanks to John for filming and the photography used in the postcards. We'll hear from some factors in a minute, but I'd also like to record our thanks and best wishes to those family members that year after year encourage, support and retell their stories, to try and hold employers to account and stop the deaths of anyone else's loved ones. Hilda Palmer, the person who started FAC, my mentor and friend, gives unstinted support to families. I'd also like to record our thanks to all those people who continue to support our events, including the trade unions and solicitors, who speak and raise the issues each year and provide financial support, much needed financial support I'd add. And a special thanks must go to Thompson Solicitors for hosting our meetings and of course paying for the refreshments today. Pop the cake, just have a buy the cake if they pay for the rest. And absolutely for producing the postcard for us, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much to Phil and the team at Thompson's for that. I'd also like to mention Claire Mooney, who provides our music at our event each year and is a wonderful support. And of course, I'd also like to thank the People's History Museum for not only supporting our annual exhibition, but enabling us to place the window here. This is truly a collective effort and a fantastic result for the trade union movement and the community. We've only got a couple of speakers before the unveiling, but the first speaker is somebody I'm really pleased that's been able to come today, and that's Paul Adams. And Paul Adams is the father of Samuel Adams, who's a 6-year-old who died at Trafford Centre in 1998. So Paul, great.
Firstly, I'd just like to say what an honour it is to be invited and to be speaking to you today at the unveiling of this stained glass window. I'm sure fallen tears, so beautifully crafted by Michael, will stop people in their tracks as they look around the museum. I first became aware of Workers' Memorial Day around the turn of the century, and the reason for this was purely the result of something dreadful that happened to our family. In 1998, 1 month after the opening of the Trafford Centre, and also 1 month after the birth of my beautiful daughter Olivia, who's joined me here today, our son Samuel was cruelly taken away from us. Sam was a 6-year-old boy, playing innocently with a number of other children in the restaurant area of the Trafford Centre, when an unsecured railing weighing approximately a quarter of a tonne in weight fell on top of him, striking him on the head, killing him almost instantly. We are in no doubt that the Trafford Centres and their parent company Peel Holdings, greed, management failures, and lack of basic health and safety consideration was a massive risk to their own staff, Trafford Centre workers, and members of the public. And in the end, unfortunately, it was our Sam who paid for these failures with his life. And we as a family have been paying the price ever since. It was shortly after this we first got in touch with the great, fantastic, wonderful Hilda. As she woke us up one morning when she was speaking so very eloquently on the BBC radio about health and safety, and she opened our eyes to the widespread failures that were occurring. Hilda was incredibly helpful and supportive, but our attempts to hold the company fully accountable for what happened to our beautiful son was a struggle. We were insistent that an act of gross negligence had occurred, and that someone at the helm of this company should have been charged with corporate manslaughter. The CPS eventually gave us the devastating news that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute. Insufficient evidence, insufficient laws more like. The Trafford Centre were prosecuted under health and safety law and were found guilty, but the fine imposed was pretty insignificant to a company of their size. We had a genuine belief that those companies who cause serious injury and death quite literally getting away with murder. This is where our journey along the corporate manslaughter highway began. In 2006, Hilda, through her many interactions with families in similar circumstances to ours, set up Families Against Corporate Killers, or FAC, as we are more commonly known. And I'm proud to be included in the commendable list of family members of this group. Livy, who's here with me today, as I mentioned, will no doubt remember being taken to meet our local MP on many occasions to badger him about the progress of the corporate manslaughter bill. And she will also have fond memories of sitting, aged about 8 years of age, in a chamber in the Houses of Parliament, listening to the riveting arguments of the subcommittee, attempting to agree the contents and wording of the proposed Corporate Manslaughter Act. Eventually, too late for us, in 2007, the Corporate Manslaughter and Corporate Homicide Act was passed, and we believe this to have been a positive step in the fight for justice. After we had met Hilda, and because of our own personal tragedy, and as our eyes were opened to the consistent injustices of workers injured and killed in the workplace due to blatant flouting by employers of existing health and safety law, along with the woefully inadequate remedies and penalties to deal with the breaches of the regulations, we became regular attendees of the Workers' Memorial Day. The ceremony is always a sad reminder of everyone's losses and also how far we still have to go. But it is also heartwarming to know that so many great people are continuing with the struggle to improve the situation of current and future generations. Whilst progress has been made, it is still a national scandal that in Great Britain, one person every 10 minutes dies from a work-related incident or illness. Globally as a whole, statistics are much, much worse, and with the rather disturbing rise of some of the dodgy political leaders around the world, no names needed, it is absolutely imperative that our voices continue to be heard, and we remind them that we must remember the dead and fight for the living. Thank you.
And now let's introduce, it takes no introductions actually, we'll introduce Hilda to speak to you.
Thank you very much. Janet is my friend and my inspiration and has organised everything today. And thank you all. I'd like to echo her thanks to all of you here for making this happen. And I'd really like to thank Paul for that incredibly eloquent speech. Thank you very much, Paul. I got into this by working at Greater Manchester Housing Centre and advising and supporting workers to solve health and safety problems at work. And gradually got to know, unfortunately, lots of families for whom work had been deadly and killed someone they loved. And I set up something called Grieve My Work in the Northwest, which is how I originally met Paul Dawn after someone was killed, murdered by Peel Holdings. And we worked very hard, as Paul said, to try and get justice for those sort of people, And it was in 2006 that Paul and other members of that group that we've been working with wanted to make the group more nationally available. That's when we set up Families for Important Things. And I must say that, well, people have been very nice about me, but the only reason I can do this, and the only reason I do this, is because of the incredible inspiration of the people who have been terribly, terribly treated. The most terrible things happened to them. And we want to say the fact that we sit with people in their darkest hour and we help them speak truth to power, and we fight like hell to get as much justice as we possibly can. I'm not going to say anything very much more about that, other than the fact just to reiterate what Paul has said, that far too many people in what is supposedly the 6th richest country in the world still go to work and either don't come home alive or come home having been exposed to something that's going to kill them 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. And let's remember that 50,000 people die in the UK every year because of work-related illnesses, and around 1,500 because of work-related instances. So that means that every 28th of April, every Workers' Memorial Day, we remember the dead and we pledge ourselves to fight for the living, because this is not right. This is not right. Anyone should go to work and not come home, or should be harmed so they die or are better. We have to remember that, and so I'd just like us to remember that we're going to have a minute's silence. I'd like you to think on the fact that today, like every other day this year, around 140 people will die because of their work. And Sarah is going to release 140 purple forget-me-not ribbons, which are the symbol of Workers' Memorial Day, after our minute's silence. So can we just have a minute's silence to remember? Thank you.
Thank you. A bit emotional that, isn't it? See that, and think of the number of people that are dying each day in the UK as a result of wear. But as Hilda said, our motto for Workers' Memorial Day is remember the dead and fight for the living. So whilst we remember all those people, including Samuel, who has died as a result of wear, we also have to think about how we campaign, how we make sure that it doesn't happen to anybody else. And as part of Fighting for the Living, we're really pleased to, I'm really pleased to introduce Rebecca Unveiling to you this afternoon. We were so pleased when Rebecca said she'd be part of today. We've witnessed her rise to the heady heights of Shadow Minister with a massive portfolio. She's taken on the role with dignity, integrity and true grit. She's indeed, I think, a future leader, and we are all pleased to call her our friend, to our cause, and to the labour and trade union movement and the local community more generally. So I'm pleased to introduce Rebecca.
Thanks very much. I'm a bit kind of taken aback by the ribbons, if I'm honest, because I think it's kind of hit probably most of us in this room pretty hard to recognise the symbolism of 140 people losing their lives at work today. As we said, as Hilda said, in one of the richest economies in the whole world. And I'd like to thank Hilda and Janet and Thompsons and everybody that's been involved in today's event, the FAC families and the fantastic emotional speeches that we've heard already from families that shouldn't have had to lose their loved ones when profit was put before our health and safety laws. And last year we had the general election, and I tell this story quite a lot, but because it's one of my darkest moments in my political lifetime, which has only been for 3 years so far. But we march every May Day to a place called Bexley Square in Salford, and this year we were marching to Bexley Square to commemorate a battle that's called the Battle of Bexley Square, where people from all across Salford protested against various things that were happening to them at the time, and they endured a pretty horrific existence at that time, both at work and at home. Such were the levels of poverty across the city, and they were met with fierce violence, police with batons on horses, and that's why it became known as the Battle of Bexley Square. And I was about to get on top of the bench and, do a little speech, and I became a bit depressed, and I thought to myself, what would the people of Bexley Square think about where we are today? How far have we come? And then I thought about all of the people that came after them, all of the fantastic people across our trade union movement, those workers in workplaces who stuck their head above the parapet to speak out about health and safety issues and were quite often blacklisted and lost their livelihoods. Where would they think about where we are today, when all they were doing was fighting for a better future, where we had safety and quality of life put ahead profit and greed? And I thought to myself, they wouldn't think that we'd come very far, because not a lot has changed, because we have gone backwards at a very, very rapid rate, certainly over the last 8 years. And we've got the statistics which are staggering in themselves. 140 people die every day in Great Britain at work. 1,500 are killed annually in workplace incidents. An estimated 50,000 are killed by workplace diseases, and more than 621,000 are injured each year, and millions more are suffering work-related ill health. And when you think to yourself, so I certainly do, and I'm sure many of the families that I represent across Salford think this, you're never one step away from somebody who's been affected by illness, injury or death at work. Everybody knows somebody in their family that suffered everything from tinnitus all the way through to asbestosis, because their lives were put at risk just trying to put food on the table of their families. And it shouldn't be like this. I think it's fantastic that we have this teardrop window that we're about to open today, so that we can commemorate those brave men and women who lost their lives from all our communities. But we've got to remember that we're there to fight for our communities' futures. And I think the people of Bexley Square, if they saw us today, they wouldn't be depressed about how far we'd gone backwards. I think they'd be proud that we were doing what they did, and when the time came up to stand up and be counted, we did it, and we fought for the living. Thank you very much.
And Rebecca and Hilda. Right, we're going to do a coordinated...
This hasn't been rehearsed.
And we hope it doesn't pull the window down. But we're going to do the unveiling now.
That's probably the one that's going to pull it all down.
Yeah, that's we've got to
do the ribbon.
We'll do after 3. 1, 2, 3. So, as we say, remember the dead, fight for the living. Thank you ever so much for coming this afternoon. And have a safe journey back through the crowds of Manchester. If there's any cake left, please help yourself to cake. And mind you don't trip on the ribbon, slide on the ribbon. If you want to pick some up, that would be great. I was just hoping we wouldn't get out of the safety because it was we were. So thank you ever so much for coming. And please help yourself and support the cafe as well. Thank you.